folks, welcome back to our channel, The Code Talk. So guys, today we are going to discuss about different data types in Python, right? So as you know that every value in any programming language has a specific data type, right? So similarly in Python, it offers us bunch of data types which we use extensively while working on any Python application, right? So the very first data type which Python provides us is a number data type, right? And the second data type which we will discuss is a string data type, and third we have is a bool data type, right? And then fourth we have list in Python, right? And then we have is a tuple. We will discuss tuple as well, right? And then the next data type we have is set, right? And we have dictionary in Python, right? So guys, to start with the very first data type, that is a number data type, right? So let's first see what are the different number data types in Python, right? So a number data type further can be of three types, right? A number data type further can be of three types. So what can be those three numbers? A number can be an integer number, right? It can be a float number, right? And it can be a complex number. So we will look into all these number types. So in integer, Python provides us int class to represent the integer numbers, right? So for example, if you create a variable, say a is equal to integer 1, right? So when I say this, it means to say that the value of a is 1, right? And the type of a is int, right? So as we discussed in the previous tutorial, we don't need to specify the class name over here, right? We can just write the variable and assign its value, and from the value itself it infers the type of the variable, right? So, and similarly for the float, the class which Python provides us is float class to represent the float variables, right? So similarly, as we had the int class in for integer numbers, we have float class to represent the float numbers. So that means to say, if I create a variable f, right, and assign it value 1.2, right, then what should be the type of f? The type of f should be float, right, because value is float, right? So value is in decimal 1.2, right? And in case of complex data type, in case of complex numbers, so complex numbers has two parts. So the very first part in a complex number is real part, right? And the second part is the imaginary part, right? For example, if I have to represent a complex number, then we can create it like c is equals to 1 plus 3j, right? So here 1 is the real part, right? And 3j is the imaginary part. So guys, let's go to our Python shell and let's try to create some number data types, right? So like the first data type I want to create is the integer number. So I can have here is like a is equals to 1, right? So, and similarly for the float I can have f is equals to 1.2, right? And how we create complex numbers? So for the complex number I can have it like 1 plus 3j, right? So now let's see what are the values of our variables, right? If I see a, then you can see value 1 is assigned to A, right? And then similarly for F we have float value 1.2, and similarly if we check the value of C, then we see this complex value, right? So now let's use a type function to see which classes are representing these values. So if I check the type of A, then see here int class is representing the integer number value, and similarly let's check the type of our float value, right? So here you can see that our float class is representing the our float numbers, right? And similarly if we try to see the value for the C, right? So here the class is complex. So as we discussed, the complex numbers are represented in the two parts, where the first part is the real part, right? And the second part is the imaginary part. So in case of C over here, 1 is the real part and 3j is the imaginary part, right? So guys, this is how we work, we create number data types, right? Now guys, there might be situations where we need to convert the one number data type into another number data type, right? So this is basically known as the type conversion. So in Python there are some operations which basically directly converts one number data type into another number data type, right? For example, if I write over here like A is equals to 1 plus 2.0, right? So is this a valid syntax in Python? Yes, this is a valid syntax. And if I try to see what is the value of A, right? So let's go to our Python shell and try to see if we try to do something like this, then what is the result we get. So I write over here A is equals to integer 1 plus float 2.0, right? So now let's print the value of A. So you can see that value of A is 3, right? So it means to say that the value 1, which was originally integer in nature, which was of type integer, is now converted to float and summed up with the 2.0, right? So the result is 3.0. This is known as quotient, right? So this is known as quotient, which means to say converting one data type into other type, right? So there are some operations in Python uh, which can perform type conversion from one number type to another, like plus, minus, etc., right? So these, whenever you try to perform these operations on integer and float values, so this will convert the integer numbers into the float value. One more important aspect I think we should I want to touch upon here is with the float. So while working on float, when you have something like this, when I want to add something like I want to have 1.1 and 2.2, right? So what should be the expected result? So we all whatever we have learned in our schools, we expect that result should be 3.3, right? But if I try to do the same in my Python, then is the result same, right? The answer is no. If I try to perform the same operation in Python, the result is something else, right? So let's go to our Python shell and let's check what is the result in that case, right? So if I do it like 1.1 plus 2.2, then the result is not 3.3. The result is somewhere approximately near 3.3, but it is not exactly 3.3, right? So if I try to do something like 1 plus 1, 1.1 plus equal to 3.3. So if I try to do something like 1.1 plus 2.2 equal to 3.3, then is this true? No, this is not true. Why so? Why this is not true? This should be true. This is what we all have learned in our school days, right? But let's see what is the reason for that. So guys, in Python, whatever code we write in Python programming, whatever the code we write, so that code is converted into the binary language, right? So when you are writing this 1.1 plus 2.2, so this code is converted into the binary language. So this 0.1 is converted into some value, some binary value like 0, 0, 1, 0, 0. Some these kind of values, this code will be converted, right? So this results into infinitely long binary fraction, right? So its value will be like 0.0010, something like this, and our computer stores only finite numbers, right? Our computer stores only finite numbers. That means to say the value of this will be approximately equals to 0.1, right? It will be approximately equals to 0.1, but it will never be exactly equal to 0.1. So that means to say the value of 1.1 plus 2.2 can be approximately equal to 3.3000 something like that, but it can never be equal to 3.3, right? So how to work in such conditions, right? So this is not the issue with our Python. So this is the limitation with our computer, right? This is the limitation with our machine, right? Because it accepts and it works with binary language only. So how to overcome that? To overcome that, Python offers us one module. So what is that module? So that is decimal module. User can use this module. So what is the use of this module? The float number has a precision up to 15 decimal places, right? So float has precision up to 15 decimal places, right? And in decimal we have user settable precision. User settable precision. What that means? That means that user can specify the precision as per his requirement. So let's try to use this module, and let's go back to our Python shell and let's see what are the results then. Here is a Python shell. So to use this module, first of all you have to write a statement that is import decimal. So we have imported the decimal module. Now what we can do is we want to perform the addition of 1.1 plus 2.2, and then we want to see what is the result, right? So then what you can do is you can use decimal dot the decimal method of decimal module, and in the string form you can pass the value 1.1 and plus similarly we can pass the second value, right? So that is decimal method of decimal module and pass the value in the string form, right? Now let's see what is the result. So here you can see the result is 3.3. So now we don't have that issue which we were seeing earlier. So guys, we can use this module when we have this kind of requirement. What kind of requirement? Like when we are working on some finance application, right, where we are doing some calculations and we don't want any kind of we want exact results, right? So in those cases we can use this, we should use this module, right? Or when we want to have our precision as per our requirement, then we should use this module. So in those cases we can use this module. So let's go back to next data type. So next data type we will discuss is the string data type. So guys, what is a string? String is basically a sequence of characters. So string is sequence of characters. Now how we can how we can represent strings in Python? So there are basically three ways to create string data types, string variables in the Python. So the very first method is like we can create strings using single quote. I can create strings using single quote. So second method we have is I can create strings using double quotes, right? And the third method is we can create strings using triple quotes. Now how we can use them? First I want to create a string using single quote. So I can do it like this. This is string in single quotes. This is string in single quotes. And similarly, I can use double quotes as well to represent the strings. So I can write it like this is string in double quotes. And similarly, I can use the triple quotes, right? And we can write like, and similarly I can use the triple quotes, right? I can write it like this is the string in, so this is string in double quotes. Now, why there are different three methods to represent the strings? So let's just understand that, and let's try to create the same string data types in our Python shell. So if I let's create our first string variable with the single quote. So this is string in single quotes, right? And let's create second string variable using double quotes, right? So this is string in double quotes. And similarly, let's create a third string using triple quotes, right? So we can write it like this is string in triple quotes. Now guys, why we use triple quote string? So let me tell you here that we use the triple quotes to create the strings in the multiple lines. So if I press enter over here in my Python shell, then it will move me to the next line, right? So here I can continue with my string creation and I can write it, this is my second line in triple quotes. So here you can just keep on entering and keep on adding multiple lines in that. So whenever you have to add multiple lines of string, whenever you want to create string with multiple lines, then you should use triple quotes, right? So our string is created. Now let's see what is the value in S1. So this is what we created, right? And value of S2, so this is a string in double quotes, and similarly the value of S3 is, now here you can see that this is our first line, this is string in triple quotes, and the next line we have is we have some special character that is backslash n. This is embedded between both of these lines. So now what does that means? So here this backslash n represents the new line. That means it is differentiating, it is specifying from where our next line, our new line is starting. Now let's try to play with our string variable. So if I write it something like S0, then what should be the result? Then I can see the result is T. So that means to say that every string character in the string line, every string character has an index and it starts from 0. So when I try to say give me the character at the index 0, then what is the character at the index 0? The character is T. So similarly, if I say give me the character at the index 2, right? So then what is the character at the index 2? That is I. So we can access the characters of a string by using index. So similarly, what if I want to fetch only some part of the string? So then we can have something called as slicing. So what is slicing? So what I can do is, instead of specifying my index over here, I can specify uh, from where I want to fetch my string, right? So that is the starting index, and up to what point, till what index. Like from the S1 I want to fetch this is this only, right? I want to fetch this part. Then what I can do is I can say that start from the 0 and go up to fourth index, then let's see what is the result. So this gives me the that particular slice of that string. So similarly we can specify the starting index and then we can specify the ending index. So this will give me the that portion of the string. So guys, this is how we can represent the string in the single quotes, double quotes and triple quotes, and we can access those strings using the slicing. Now we know that we need to use triple quotes when we want to have multiple lines in the string. But why we have single quotes and double quotes? So like we might have some case where we want to create string like this. Say I want to create S4, that is equals to, I'm using my single quote to create the string. So I say that this is my string in, okay, here I say use double quotes, in double quotes. Now what should be the result? So guys, you can see here the result is we can use double quotes inside the single quotes as well. But what about the case when I want to use when I want to use single quotes inside my string which I am creating using the single quotes only? Like for example, I say this is my new string and I want to keep this new inside the single quotes. Then how can I do that, right? If I try to create a string variable like this, then you will see that here is the invalid syntax error. Why so? Because when we started this string with this quote, and then as soon as Python interpreter see this second quote, second single quote, it will end the string, it will terminate the string, right? So after that whatever value is there, that is invalid. So how we can resolve this? So to overcome this, what we can do is we can just simply use the double quotes over here. You can just use double quotes over here and write it like this is my new, this is my new string, right? Now let's see what is the result. Now if I try to print s5, now you can see the result. So single quotes and double quotes can be used interchangeably to create the string data types, right? So that is the one benefit of having the two representations to create the string. So this is all about the string. There are various operations we can perform on the string. We have some inbuilt functions, like we have trim function. We can perform a trim function to trim the string or to trim spaces from the string, right? We have substring function as well. So string class itself has some set of functions which you can use to perform various operations on the string. So now let's go back to our next data type in Python, that is bool. So what is a bool data type? So bool data type basically it represents the it basically represents the value as true or false, or true or false, right? For example, if I create a value, if I create a variable like a is equals to true, right? And then if I go to my Python shell and if I see the and if I go to my Python shell and I see the type of this a variable, then the type will be bool, right? So bool data type itself specify two values, that is either true or false, right? So let's go to our Python shell and try to create a bool variable. So here we can create our bool variable like b is equals to true, right? Then value of b, it is true, right? This is what we have assigned. Now if I go back and use my type method to see the type of b, then type of b is bool, right? So bool is the class which represents the boolean values, right? right? So similarly, next we have a list, right? So guys, so far the data types we discussed, like the numbers, the different type of number data types, the boolean or strings. So these are basically simple data types. Simple data types means to say these are data types where you can store single values. Now there are complex data types as well. Complex data types mean where you can store the multiple values, right? So list is one of them. So now let's try to understand what list is. So a list in Python is similar to an array. What we have array in C++ or Java. So how we create array in CPP or Java? We can create it like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? This is what is known as list in Python. So this is list of integer. Similarly, we can have a list of characters like this list of A, B, and C. This is list of characters. And similarly, we can have list of strings like A, B, C, X, Y, Z, and P, Q, R. Right? This is list of strings. Now there is one more data type in Python, that is tuple. So let's take that and try to understand both side by side. So the another data type we have is tuple. So what is a tuple? Like you create the list with the square braces, the tuple we create with the open braces. So that is the one difference between list and tuple. So you create list with the square braces like here, and the tuple you create with the open braces. Now second difference is, like I have the list of integers and I have list of characters and I have list of strings. Similarly, I can have tuples. So I can have tuples like 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 and 6, right? But there is one major difference between list and tuple. So one major difference is that tuple is read only. You can only see the data in a tuple, but you cannot modify this data. But in case of list, you can modify the data. Like for example, if I come over here and I create a, like here I created the list. I say like this is my list, A is equals to list of integers. If I put it something like this, A index 0, then what will be the result it will return to me? It will give me 1. And if I do it like this, and if I assign some other value to this list at index 0, like I assign value 10 over here, then what will be the result of the list? Then list will look like this. So the first element which is at the 0 index will be replaced by this new value, right? So it will become like this: 10, 2, 3, 4, 5. So list can be edited, list can be updated, right? But the tuple cannot be updated. Tuple is read only. Both these data types are used extensively in Python programming, but it depends on your requirement. So if you are in requirement where you have a collection of elements which you want to modify, then you should use a list, right? But if you want to have collection of elements where it should not be modified, where it can only be viewed, then you should use a tuple, right? So let's go back to our Python shell, and here we will try to create list and tuple, and then we will see how we can work with it, right? So let's create a list. Here I will create a list of integers, and L is my list. Let's see what are the elements in the list. So I have 1, 2, 3 and 4, all the integers in the list which I have created, right? Now let's see what is the type of L. So type of L is list. So list class is representing our collection of integers. So now let's try to access the elements. So we can access the elements of the list by using its index, right? So here you can see we can access element at the index 0, and the next element we can index using element at index 1, similarly element at index 2, right? Similarly element at index 3, right? So here you will get out of range, because when we don't have index within the range of the list, the element is not present. So that's why here I have supplied index as 4, and we have index up to 3 only, like 0, 1, 2 and 3. At the last element at the third index is 4. So here I have supplied the index 4, which is not present, so we will get here out of range error, right? So similarly, let's try to create a tuple. Here I have a tuple of integers. The way to access tuples is also the same. You can access it with the index. So this is my element at index 0, and this is my second element, and similarly this is my third element, right? So the way to access elements using the indexing is same with both the list and tuples, right? So now let's try to update the list. Like I want to update the element at the second position in the list, then assign it with some other value, say 10. So now let's see what is the value of list. So here you can see that second element of the list is replaced with 10. So earlier the value was 2, now the list is updated. So similarly, let's try to update the value of tuple. So I want to update the element of tuple at index 2. Now let's try to assign it with some value. So here you will get the error. So as I said, tuple is immutable. Tuple is read only. You cannot modify a tuple. So that's why you will get a type error over here, which says that tuple object does not support item assignment, right? So here that is a basic difference between list and tuple, that we can modify the list and we cannot modify the tuple. Alright. So guys, next data type we will be discussing here is a set. So what is a set? A set is basically a collection of unordered and unique elements. So just remember, set is a collection of unordered and unique elements. Unordered and unique elements. Now you can create a set using curly braces. So this is the syntax to create the set. For example, if you want to create a set S, then you can specify the elements within these curly braces, right? So here you create a set of elements A, G, H, X, like this, right? So you can create elements like this, or you can also use the set method, right? You can also use set method in the Python. So when you want to use the set method, then how can you create a set using this method? Then you can just pass your collection of a list of your elements to this set. Like if I want to create a similar set, then I can do it like this. I can pass these elements within this set methods, right? G, H, X and F, right? So like this you can create a set. Sets are very useful in the situations when you want to access an element from a collection, right? So in those cases, sets has always advantage over list and tuples. So now let's go back to our Python shell and try to create a set. So here I create a set S is equals to, here I will use the curly braces, element A, then element say F, then G, then I will have is C, right? So if you try to create some duplicate values in the set, then set will not keep those values and it will just automatically remove those values. Like I have entered a duplicate A value over here. Now let's see what happens when we see the set. Now a set is created. Now let's just see how it looks. Now here you can see that set contains all the unique values. I had duplicate value as A. Now here A is occurring only once. So set will only contain the unique values and immutable values, right? So if while creating, if you add any duplicate values, then set will automatically remove that. And similarly we can use set method as well. Let's try to use the set method to create a set. So here what you can do is you can supply your collection as list to the set method. Here like I pass elements as A, B and C. So now here my set is created. So if I try to see this set, then here it is. So A, B and C, these are the elements of the set. So you can create the set as using the set method as well, or you can also create the set using the manual syntax using the curly braces. So there are some operations available as well you can perform. If you are working on the multiple set, you can perform intersection and union of the multiple sets as well, right? So this was the set data type. So next data type we have is dictionary. So now what is a dictionary? So guys, dictionary is similar to hash maps. So dictionary is similar to hash map. Means in dictionary values are stored in the key value pairs. Okay, so what does that means to say? So first of all, syntax to create a dictionary is you will specify the curly braces and then you will specify a key, and corresponding to a key it will have a corresponding value, say v1, right? Similarly you will have another key and its corresponding value, and similarly you will have multiple collection of key value pairs inside the dictionary. Now this key can be a simple data type, and this key can also be a multiple or complex data type. Similarly this value can also be a simple data type like integers and a string, right? Or it can be a multiple or complex data type, right? Now this key should always be immutable. So now that's why our list can never be a key inside the dictionary, because you can modify a list. So a list can never be a key. So if I give you an example of a dictionary, then we can have a dictionary like I have a collection of countries. C is equals to, let's say I have India, and then I have its capital, value is New Delhi, and my next key value pair is, say I have America and value is Washington. Okay, so now if I want to access the keys and values of this dictionary, then I can do that using the key method. So key method will return me all the keys of the dictionary, and if I want to access a particular element of the dictionary, then if I try to do something like C of 0, then this is not gonna work. This is not valid for the dictionary. So if you want to access the first element, then you can specify it something like this, C, and you can specify the key over here, India. So this will give you the value as New Delhi, right? So let's go back to our Python shell and try to create a dictionary, right? So here I will try to create a dictionary. Say my dictionary is D is equals to, I will specify the curly braces, and my first key in that is India, and my value corresponding to that key is New Delhi, and my second element in the dictionary is America, and its corresponding capital value is Washington. So now my dictionary is created. So if I try to access the dictionary using its index, say D of 0, then this is not valid, right? So this will give me the key error. So to access the values of a dictionary, we have to use its key. So if I want to access a value of New Delhi from the dictionary D, then I will have to specify the key value as India over here. So here the value is New Delhi.
So guys, just remember that the key in the dictionary is always case sensitive. For example, if I try to give it like India in the lowercase letters, then this is not gonna work, right? So key is always case sensitive in the dictionary. So this is how we work with the dictionary. So guys, that's it. This is all about our today's session, that was data types in Python. So if you have any questions, then you can send me your questions in the comment section below this video, and I will try my best to answer your questions. So guys, if you like this video, then please give the thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe our channel, The Code Talk, so that whenever we make a video in future, you will get all the notifications in your YouTube browser. So that's it guys. Take care. Happy learning. Signing out.